Why did they cancel the Amphipolis bone analysis? What are they trying to hide from us? We know that a few years back, the Kasta tomb of Amphipolis was found in northern Greece, east of Salonika. It is believed to be where that bay was housing Alexander the Great's navy. Now, the obsession of the Secretary General of the Ministry of Culture of Greece, Maria Vlazaki, who maintains that the ancient monument at the Kasta tomb is not a creation of the ancient Macedonians but of Romans, is proven to be erroneous. The staunch supporter of the Roman creation of the Macedonian monument in Kasta, the tomb here, whose opinion wanted to pass as a slaughter to the current administration of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, once again reveals to everyone that her dispositions and by extension the actions, not only is it not friendly towards the great discovery of Amphipolis, but on the contrary it turns against it in order to serve who and what. Reference to names may have been prohibited. However, according to one of the scenarios studied by the Ministry of Affairs, the findings photographed Olympias, that is Alexander the Great's mother, Hephaestion, who was one of Alexander the Great's buddies from elementary years, and his two sons, the two sons of Cassander. Cassander was another of Alexander the Great. Basically made his childhood friends all his generals, were all his childhood friends. Now, so the desperate efforts of the Secretary General of the Ministry of Education and Culture to pass her point of view bring huge responsibilities as well as to the Ministry of Culture regarding the analysis of the bones found in the Amphipolis tomb. Since 2015, Mrs. Vlazaki has had at her disposal a programming contract of €236,697 for the analysis of 300 Amphipolis skeletons, between them and Kasta dating from 1000 BC to 200 BC. Now we know the time of Alexander the Great was about 330 BC. And she not only ostentatiously put it in the drawer, but is systematically deaf both herself and her political superiors, as revealed by the Secret Real Truth blogspot. The reliable journalist, Mr. Georgios Rodakoglu, specifically points out that the programmatic contract of the specific research program has already been signed by the General Director of Antiquities, Elena Korkas, and the General Director of Finance, Georgios Leontas, prove that the money has been secured for the further study and research from the previous administration under the Ministry of Konstantinos Tsoulas. So the money has been given to analyze the DNA of these 300 skeletons. It should be noted that the contract was signed on the 13th of January 2015, and when Lina Medoni was still at the helm of the Ministry of Internal Affairs and Communications, and the investigation lasted 2 years. However, we reached its end at June 30th, 2017, without a single thing being done. The former Minister of Culture, Nikos Xydakis, when he visited Amphipolis in 2015, had made a reference to the start of the research program, but his statements were ultimately not followed by any additional action. Mr. Xydakis was succeeded by Mr. Aristides Vlatas, and now in the same political position, the artist Lida Koniordou. For this specific issue, however, everyone observed them and still observes. They're silent about all this. They don't do anything. The aim of the program was the presentation, but also the in-depth investigation of the biological parameters that can be observed in the skeletal and dental remains in relation to the archaeological data as they are reflected in the burial mound. The scientific research would be documented for the first time in Greece through a combined application of innovative analytical methods on a wide sample of the population of historical times, and the results of the research would add many and useful elements to the skeletons of Amphipolis tomb, but would also help archaeologists to have a better picture of these burials. The research was assigned to the Aristotle University of Salonika, which is not far from Amphipolis, with the scientific responsibility of the assistant professor of the Department of History, Archaeology, Sevastis Triandafilou, and to the Democritus University with the scientific responsibility of the assistant professor of the Department of History, Ethnology, Christina Papageorgopoulou. Now, after contacting the research committees of both universities, it's confirmed that this particular program never even started, even though the money was guaranteed. So why did they not analyze these DNAs from these 300 skeletons of Amphipolis? They had the money, they had the order to do so. As can be expected, there are many questions about the motives that push Mrs. Vlasaki to take such a stance. How is it possible that we are facing such an important archaeological discovery that will further promote Greek culture internationally, and that the ministry itself is canceling studies that would prove this? Along with Mrs. Vlasaki, the archaeologists Angeliki Kotaridis and Jenny Veleni, who signed the relevant Roman conclusion 2015, along with the speleologist Evangelos Kambouroglu, who claims that the monument belongs to the construction of 1st century BC and not the last quarter of the 4th. Strong paper for the excavation may be presented, the presentation of the stratigraphy of the bones as they were found inside the tomb, as well as the architectural phases of construction of the tomb, the enclosure, the presentation of the propylon, that is the gate, the opening of it, with the sculptures of the lions and the stones removed from the walls of Amphipolis. The interest is also focused on the presentation of the marble sculptures that are part of the frieze of the lion's pedestal, elements studied and researched in all their details by the architect Michalis Lefantzis. The speech of the geologist Grigoris Tsokas is considered to be one of decisive importance, which will include a 10-year retrospective of studies and research carried out with their collaborators in relation to archaeological excavations. The opponents of Amphipolis will try once again to argue in favor of the Roman conclusion with the help of the unsolicited and anonymous defenders of the monument who serve specific interests throughout the internet. Their attempt to spread similar opinions for 3 years and even threats against the scientists of excavation, as well as to appear as a pole of information abroad, will collapse. Will their role be revealed inside the Ameth? In case he presents the complete results of the electrical tomography of the Kastat tomb of Amphipolis, then these results cannot be ruled out to have the form of a rescue to those who still refuse the continuation of the excavations in Amphipolis. Finally, it should be noted that the archaeological site of Greece, which yielded perhaps the greatest historical discovery of the last 40 years, has been without police guard for a considerable period of time. Why is that? This should be guarded. The site of the burial complex may be filmed by closed-circuit television, but nevertheless the surveillance system in the hands of a shrewd hacker can present significant weaknesses and be disabled. If we also take into account the fact that the guards do not have the right to bear arms, then in the case of an unexpected incident, it will be too late. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.